I know. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded for future broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. The mission statement of the Lunenburg Public Schools is to provide all students with the skills, confidence, and passion for lifelong learning so that they may find their own paths to successful careers, active citizenship, and rewarding lives. I'm going to skip over the chair's report. We have a lot on the agenda. We don't have any presentations, correct?
Correct.
So we're going to go to public comment for agenda items only. Do we have anybody public commenting? Do I need to say all the... Okay. Review. We have warrants and line item transfers. Do we have line items?
So there'll be a budget transfer later as a separate agenda item.
Oh, we have warrants to
Yes.
approve? Correct, yes. And minutes from the October 2nd regular session meeting?
The only change I have for that is it references Ms. Soroka as the chair for public comment, and you weren't there.
I was not here, no.
So it should be Ms.
Wendy,
Bertrand.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also had something on 12B, Finance Committee met. I did state that the town manager does look at, let me just reread what I wrote, the increase of contractual costs and health insurance while level funding other costs.
Okay, so we want to correct that?
Yeah, I would like to correct that.
So we won't approve the meeting?
You can bring them back.
We'll bring them back to at the next meeting. And you had something, Brian?
I also had two corrections.
Okay.
One was number 7, referenced State Senator Tran, and it said Representative Tran. So
Oh, okay.
Just fix that.
Yep.
And the second one was the second public comment, number 11, referencing the Lunenburg Grange event is on October 18th, and it said the 8th.
October 18th.
It's the 18th.
Oh, they were meeting on October 18th?
No, the Grange Pumpkin Fest is the...
Oh, this Friday.
it-
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
It just said on
Okay.
that's the 8th.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. It's this Friday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to hold off on approving those until the changes are made. Okay, so we have a superintendent's report.
So I have a professional development update for you. We've been invited to co-host the November 5th full-day Professional Development Day with North Middlesex Regional School District. North Middlesex High School will serve as the site for the collaborative endeavor to increase PD opportunities for our staff and provide staff an opportunity to network with colleagues from other districts. We're excited about this opportunity, and we're very excited about the prospects for an even larger regional collaboration for next year's November PD Day. And we hope that we will be one of multiple host campuses a year from now. Community events, I'll mention again that VOR will be hosting a presentation on youth and pain management tomorrow evening, 6:30 here at the middle high school. Miles for Miles will be on Sunday, October 20th. PTO is still looking for volunteers. The registration is on our website, and noteworthy that this will be the last of this event. The symposium, I did have an opportunity to meet with the town manager and the director of land use to prepare a coordinated presentation for the symposium on the 29th at 6:30 in the auditorium here. The event will be open to the public. I will be one of 3 presentations. The goal is to outline recent history that brought us to this current point in time. What does that look like, and what do we see moving forward? So I will be developing our presentation and then sharing that with the town manager so that she can put it into one common presentation.
On that topic, I did notice on one of the select board meetings that there was some discussion about potentially having some overcrowding issues in this building already in existence. So, like the comment that was made was that a child was sitting on the floor at lunch because there weren't enough seats.
I'll check that, but I don't know that
Well,
is the case.
I'm just reporting back what I
Sure,
heard.
yep.
That was at the selectmen's meeting?
That was not last night, but the week before, I believe it was.
Was that a public comment?
No, it was a comment from a select member.
Really?
Mr. Santry might have some information.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, please do.
Well, so I was at the middle high school.
Yes.
So sixth grade lunch has about 141 students, and we have about 288 seats available, so I wouldn't see where there would be an issue with seating.
Okay.
And I'm in almost every single lunch monitoring that, and I'm not saying that's an incorrect statement, but that's not something that I've been witnessing the students standing on the floor. 7th and 8th grade, we have a significant amount more students in there, but still enough seats for everybody.
Okay. Yeah, you can watch.
Yeah, okay.
It's on tape, so. But thank you.
And lastly, there is my second full-day workshop for the new superintendent induction program tomorrow in Marlborough.
And just to go back, I mentioned that so that you can, as you're working on your presentation, that you can address that concern or that
Space,
perceived
yep.
concern.
Overcrowding.
Overcrowding.
I feel like that theme has been present since before the building opened. That's
Right.
No,
Really,
it has. It's
Like,
a
you don't have
statement
enough
that's
lockers.
made
Yeah.
commonly, that there's not enough space, like I said, since
But-
before the building opened,
Yeah.
so
Just,
That would
I
be
think
great,
it's
too.
probably just something that the superintendent should be aware of in
Sure.
making the presentation.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, you're going to do the student rep report because Claire is not
Yes,
here?
Claire couldn't be with us this evening, but she did send me a few notes so that I could share with everybody. The last night to finish floats is Friday. Then they will be driven to TCP at noon for the parade on Saturday. The parade will loop from TCP through the center of town and end at the front entrance of the middle high school. Today from 3 to 5, the library hosted a card-making session. That's the public library. Cards were made and they'll be given to patients fighting or recovering from cancer. The unified basketball team had its first game at home Monday, October 21st at 3:30. Team is co-ed and new to the school this year, and it's an awesome opportunity for our students. For Spirit Week, Thursday has been changed from Camo Day to Red, White, and Blue Day. Parent-teacher conferences are next week on Tuesday and Thursday, and student council members will be there to direct traffic and help parents find their classrooms. The prom committee meetings are starting up already, and they are open to juniors and seniors. The prom this year will be hosted at Mount Wachusett. And that's all I have.
Okay. So we're going to go on to new business. We have a donation.
We do. We actually have two. So we have a donation from Hannaford Helps from their school program for the primary school in the amount of $1,000.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That would go into the gift account. And we have a donation of a swing track that's been donated by Mr. Rick Starr, and that will benefit multiple sports for our high school. We have found an appropriate location to house the swing track.
Did I hear properly that it was at TCP?
Nope, it will
Okay.
be located off the gym at the Turkey Hill.
Turkey Hill, okay.
Yep. And I would recommend that we
Accept them.
accept both these donations.
With gratitude, so I need a motion.
motion to accept both donations with much gratitude.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
So, with the donation for the track, okay, are the sports teams going to be able to go over there and use that? When will it be set up?
I don't know how quickly it will be set up because we haven't received it yet.
Oh, okay.
We wanted for you to accept it before.
Oh, okay. And have a location for it, I remember that.
Right, because this is a rather large
Yeah.
piece of equipment.
Yes.
But our athletes will be able to go over to the Turkey Hill after dismissal time.
After school,
At
right,
Turkey
okay.
Hill. And there will be supervision of the students using that area.
Okay. MCAS update.
How will that supervision work, just out of curiosity? Will that be the weight room, whoever is in charge of the weight room going
It's
over?
likely going to be the coaches.
I was going to say, this looks like a coaching thing, like it's a team thing. They'll be using it as part of...
Oh, I thought you were saying individually.
No.
People could go over.
No, it looks like it
It's
would
just
be a
going to be
team.
individual teams.
Yeah.
Will they have like sign-up type thing
I would
to...
imagine that that would be the way it would have to work. You wouldn't want too many students arriving
Right.
at the same time, assuming that they would have access and have to wait. So I think that that would be the
Like the weight room, when they want to use the weight room.
correct.
Okay. All right. So, MCAS updates.
Okay.
Who we start, you're going to do this.
So I'll give a little bit of
Okay.
an overview, and then I'll invite the principals to come up to the table, and they'll speak to some of the data on the slides.
I'm going to... I'll move up here.
So I think it's worth going quickly over the background. So this is an accountability system, the purpose of which is to provide information to families and the public about district and school performance, but it's also to now help the Department of Education to direct resources and assistance by identifying schools that require assistance or intervention, but it also allows the Department of Ed to recognize schools that are finding great success. And it is still a single statewide accountability system that meets the state's priorities, but also federal requirements. Highlights of the system include the accountability indicators, we'll see more of that shortly, that provide information about school performance and student opportunities beyond test scores, which I think is really a nice shift. It also focuses on raising the performance of each district or school's lowest performing students, and that is another new shift. And it does use categories that define school and district progress and support or assistance that might be needed. So there are two components to the accountability system. One is a normative component, that's the accountability percentile. That measures the performance of all students in a school compared to other schools in the state. It's reported as a percentile 1 to 99. It provides information on how the school is doing compared to other schools administering similar assessments, and it is calculated only at the school level for the all students group. It is calculated using accountability indicators, and schools are grouped together based on the statewide assessment that they administer. So there are three different groupings. The non-high schools, those are schools serving some combination of grades 3 through 8. Middle, high, and K through 12 schools are those schools that serve one or more grades 3 through 8 and grade 10. And high schools where only grade 10 is tested. Within each group, each school's performance on each indicator is ranked, weighted according to weighting rules. The 2019 accountability percentile is based on 2 years of data, 2018 data and the 2019 data. Data from each year are weighted, placing more weight on the data from the most recent year. So the 2018 data is weighted at 40%, while the 2019 data is weighted at 60%. The other piece is the Criterion reference component. This measures a school or a district's progress toward improvement goals. It uses data from all students and from the lowest performing students in the district and school to determine overall progress towards the targets. The lowest performing students group, and this is a new focus for the Department of Ed this year, was put in place to control for student transiency. Districts or schools' lowest performing students have to have been enrolled for 2 consecutive years to be counted in that group. Target setting, improvement targets, this again is a shift for this year. Improvement targets are set for each of the accountability indicators. Achievement targets for 2019 were set for 1 year with 2018 as the baseline data. Department of Ed is using a statistical approach to apply an expectation of improvement, the target, based on historical data. How other schools have performed historically given this level of performance. Moving forward, however, once they have multiple years of this next generation MCAS, they will be looking to establish long-term targets. Points are assigned for each indicator based on the target and actual performance. Points are earned, are combined, weighted, and calculated into a percentage of possible points for all the students, the all students group and the lowest performing students group. And those two percentages of possible point values are averaged. And the goal here is to hit that 75% target or higher. If you hit that 75%, it means that you have met the targets. We referenced the accountability indicators several times. They are achievement in English, language, arts, math, and science, student growth. Those data points are available only for ELA and math. They do not calculate growth for the science tests. High school completion, they look at the 4-year cohort graduation rate, an extended engagement rate. I like how they've phrased that. And the annual dropout rate. English language proficiency for our second language learners and the progress that they're making towards proficiency in English. And there are some additional indicators such as chronic absenteeism, the percentage of 11th and 12th graders completing advanced coursework or other advanced programs. Again, you can see that there's a weighting that happens here. High schools, they look at and weight all 5 indicators, whereas the non-high schools, obviously they take out the high school completion component, and as a result they shift the percentages for the weighting in each category, because for the non-high schools there are only 4 categories, and you have to shift the percentages to equal the 100%. However, it's important to note that they have maintained the overall achievement and growth as that 3-to-1 ratio. So the other indicators are the 1, whereas the combination of achievement and growth is that 3, so it counts more. When they take a look to categorize districts in the past, you might remember that they had levels by number, right? You're a level 1 school, you're a level 2 school. They shifted away from that a year ago. They now have overarching 2 categories: districts without required assistance or intervention and districts requiring assistance or intervention. As you can see, they are further subdivided into groups, and we'll see shortly that for the district we fell into the substantial progress under the no required assistance or intervention. And then where schools are concerned, approximately 85% will fall into that category not requiring assistance or intervention, and only about 15% into the category requiring assistance or intervention. Our schools, again, fall into the category of not requiring assistance or intervention and have made substantial progress or moderate progress towards goals. So let's take a look at a summary of how we did. So the classification you can see for the district and each of our schools that were tested, we all fall into that not requiring assistance. As far as progress toward improvement targets, when we look at the all students, you can see that the district has made substantial progress, Turkey Hill moderate, the middle school moderate, and the high school substantial. When we take a look at that subgroup that is high needs, and I am suggesting that that's the grouping that we really want to look at from this point moving forward, because we're anticipating a shifting demographic. We may see more ELL students. We will definitely, with low-income housing, see lower socioeconomic students coming in. Those fall into the high needs category along with our special ed students. So that high needs incorporates second language learners, special education students, and those that are economically disadvantaged. And still, our high needs students are making moderate progress. The accountability percentile is also reported there. You can see that our percentile for the Turkey Hill is still low. It's not where we would want it to be. But you can see that the middle school and the high school have broken into that top third percentile of all schools that they're compared to. So take a look at achievement and growth. So the achievement is reported for students as exceeding standards, meeting standards, not meeting standards, right? So when we look at the percentage of students who are meeting or exceeding the standards, we took a look at each grade compared to the state performance for all students in that grade, but then again broke out into the non-high need students and the high need students just to see comparatively how they're performing. And you can see that when you break those groups out, our high needs students are performing okay. It's not exactly where we would want to see those numbers. We would like to see them higher. But you can see that there's still a significant gap in the performance of our high needs students as compared to their non-high needs counterparts. When you take a look at the mean student growth percentile, this is another shift in reporting for the state. For years they used the median, now they've shifted to mean, so it's an average. And again, those SGPs, particularly for grade 4, are not where we would want them to be. What's considered a reasonable growth for a year falls between 40% up to, but not yet including, 60%. So you can see we're below that 40% threshold there. So we have work to do. In math, you can see that the performance is a little bit stronger. However, we do have a little work to do here with grades 4 and 5. Although the growth percentiles are a little bit stronger in grade 4, with the exception of the high needs group. And you can see that the growth percentiles for grade 5, we're just barely breaking that threshold into that moderate growth. So we definitely have work to do there. We take a look at the middle school. Again, meeting and exceeding the standards as compared to the state. Again, that combination, that percentage is not as high as we would like to see it. We have more work to do. And you can see that we still have a gap between the non-high needs and the high needs students, but our high needs students are faring a bit better in grades 6, 7, and 8. And again, you can take a look at the growth percentiles. They are in a better range, right? They tend to fall into that moderate growth range, with the exception of grade 6, where we're just breaking that threshold when you look at all students, and our non-high need students have broken through that moderate range. When we look at math, it's something similar. Again, what's nice to see is that jump right there for our high needs students. We'd like to see more numbers like that for our high needs students. Overall, though, we're doing well when you take a look at comparison to the state. And again, the growth percentiles are strongly in that moderate zone, moderate growth. And we did break that threshold with grade 6. in the non-high needs group. When we take a look at the high school for ELA, again, compared to the state, we're doing well. I'd like to note that the numbers that you're looking at here are from district-level reports. They vary slightly from school-based reports, because at the district level, all students are included into that calculation. So our students who are out of district, Mcats, Alts, etc., they're all factored in to the numbers that you see here at a district level reporting. So, Mr. McGrath will probably speak to the fact that these numbers, when you look at just our high school students here on campus, those numbers are stronger. Same is true for the math. It's a little bit concerning to see that non-high needs group just barely below that moderate growth. So there are areas that we definitely can take a look at. We did have a data workshop for all of the instructional leadership team this summer as part of our leadership work. We took a look at the reports by standard to see how the kiddos did. And when you take a look at that, you can see that there are some negative numbers. When we took a look at the reports, we really were looking for anything that was a discrepancy from how the state performed of double digits. So 10 or more either way, better than the state or underperforming the state. So you can see in green, there are some places where we did a nice job and outperformed the state. Grade 3 math, measurement and data, number and operations with fractions. Fractions is typically something that kids struggle with, so that's a nice result to see. We do know from these overall results that writing needs to be a continued focus. Clearly, grade 3, grade 4, we're seeing the constructed response. That's where the kids don't have a choice. They have to provide the entire response, so an essay. Or a short answer. And again, you can see that that's impacting all students, but it's also impacting our high needs group as well. Grade 4 also does need some work with essay questions. We know that grade 3, the integration of knowledge and ideas in reading and the conventions of standard English in language are areas that we need to spend some time exploring what we can do to have a greater impact on these results. And again, you'll see the same thing, reading, integration of knowledge and ideas for grade 4. Grade 5, the question type that was a challenge was the essay. And again, you'll see the conventions of standard English is a challenge. So we definitely know that we really need to spend more time focused on those things in the context of the curriculum. What are we doing? What do we need to do that's maybe more powerful, more impactful? How do we know that the kids are learning what we're teaching? When we look at the middle school, ELA, they're doing pretty well. When we look at math, we're seeing, when we scan to see by standard report, we're looking for those double digits, plus or minus. You can see that we have several areas in math at the middle school where we outperform the state, which is great to see. And when we take a look at the high school, it's all green, which is good news, very good news. They're doing very well there. So we reported some things that were of interest, areas for further exploration and analysis last year. And this is where I'll, defer to the principals to speak to some of the work that they did to address some of the concerns that were noted last year and any improvements that we have seen for this year. So I'll pop through these so that you can see them, and then we can come back. And then we took a look at areas for further focus. At Turkey Hill, we know that our current 4th and 5th grade students, based on last year's 3rd and 4th grade test results, need some strategies for better success with constructive response. 4th graders need targeted instruction in constructing strong essays. We also need to address the lower growth percentiles for the current 4th graders and provide targeted instruction for our current 5th graders in integration of knowledge and ideas. Math, our current 5th graders need targeted instruction in analyzing patterns. This year's 3rd grade students compared to last year's 3rd grade, show improvement in many of the areas that we flagged. So looking at 3rd grade results from a year ago, 3rd grade results now, just to see the 3rd grade and the impact that the teachers had with the focus on areas of concern, we did see some improvement there, which is good. The middle school, we continue to perform below the state average in essay writing and text type and purpose. Our students with disabilities subgroup is performing below the state average in statistics and probability in grade 6, expressions and equations in grade 7, and rational and irrational numbers in grade 8. In our science, our students with disabilities subgroup is performing below the state average in engineering and design in grade 8. All grade level math SGP scores were above that 50% threshold, which was a goal in the school improvement plan to increase that percentage. So kudos to the middle school for their efforts there. And they missed their school improvement plan goal of having all tested areas with a mean SGP between 50 and 60 by 1.2% in one area. So they fell just a little short of hitting that goal as well. The high school, we know that we want to further examine data in order to increase student percentage in the exceeding those expectations, right? Or at the very least, we need to be able to meet the state average, which would be an increase of 2% for us. And again, same scenario with our math, except we'd like to see a stronger increase there to bring us up to the state average. We have MCAS Alt. So we had a total of 7 students participating in various content area tests through the MCAS Alt portfolio assessment. 1 student in math scored in that awareness range. Emerging, we had 3 students in their ELA scoring emerging. Math, 1 student scored emerging. And progressing, we had 4 students in ELA, 5 in math, and 3 in our science. And that really is the place where you want to see the kids performing in that progressing area. And then we have our access test, and that is the test that our second language learners take to demonstrate their progress with the language acquisition. We tested 24 students. 100% of those students participated in the testing, and 76% of those students demonstrated that they were making progress. So that's good news as well. Okay. So I'll invite the principals to come up. They might like to elaborate on some of the data that you saw here in the slides and other data that might not be in the slides.
I think Dr. Burnham did an outstanding job of kind of highlighting our strengths and weaknesses and where we've really improved and where we need to continue to focus. I just wanted to highlight that accountability percentile for our school, because we are making moderate growth towards our school goals. But Lunenburg Middle School is in that 67th percentile, which is a third of the state when we're compared to similar schools that are testing similar grade levels. So I think that is a highlight for our building. Also, in the past 2 or 3 years, our focus has been on improving our math instruction and looking at our data results from Mcats and our pre- and post-test and trying to improve our instruction in that area. And if we look at grades 6, 7, and 8, 12 percentage points above the state average, 14 points above the state average, 16 points above the state average at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So just to give you an idea, that's almost 2/3 of the kids meeting and exceeding when the state is about at 50%. So I think we're doing a pretty good job preparing kids for high school and beyond. We didn't really touch upon our science, technology, and engineering scores, which are very strong ever since that we have realigned with the next generation science standards, and we're able to teach the 4 different types of science instead of physical science at 8th grade, and life science at 7th grade, and earth science at 6th grade. We're all integrated into the curriculum 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's had a major impact on our scores. 67% meeting or exceeding standards at this, in our building, and the state has 46%, so that's 21% above the state average. Just to give you a comparison, a long time. So 2012, I think we were at 33% meeting or exceeding, or what back was then was proficient or exemplary. So we have doubled the amount of kids scoring in the meeting exceeding category for science. And I think Mr. McGrath will talk about the impact that's had on his science classes at the high school.
I'll certainly step in.
Does anyone have any questions?
So obviously from a high school standpoint, I certainly want to thank my colleagues, because I'm very happy with the high school scores, but it's not like they just show up in 9th grade and know everything. So it all starts from the ground up. But one thing I will certainly echo on what Tim had said is that we really made an initiative to try to impact our science scores. Our science scores, a number of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, really weren't what we wanted to see. We didn't have a lot of students in the advanced category, and science is not yet at the high school level moved to the new category. It's still the old legacy model where you're in the you have the advanced proficient needs improvement in warning. That eventually is going to get moved over. But this year, our scores, we had 44% of our students end up in the advanced category, and the state is at 30%. So we really killed it there, which was excellent. And again, that's a direct result of kind of targeted interventions, both at the middle school as well, at the high school. And we had 42% at the proficient level, and 44% is the state average there. So, we're looking at, pretty high numbers. Almost 86% of our students are in the advanced or proficient category, which is something that, I'm very proud of. I would like to try to move some of those students in our ELA and our math scores into the exceeding expectations. We're a notch below the state in the exceeding expectations in ELA as well as in in mathematics. In ELA, we have 11% of our students exceeding expectations, and 13% is the state average in ELA. We have 66% of our students meeting expectations, and the state is at 48% in ELA. So if I could move some of those students into that category, that's something I would like to focus on for this year. It gets, a few more from the partially meeting expectations into the meeting, and then the meeting into the exceeding expectations. In mathematics, we're a little bit under on the exceeding expectations from the state. We are at 7% in exceeding expectations, and the state's at 13%. For our meeting expectations, we're at 64%, and the state average is at 45%. So we're doing very well at the meeting expectations, but if we could move a few of those students from partially meeting into meeting and then meeting into exceeding. But we really, like I said, at the science area, we're doing very, very well, and that was, a lot of targeted intervention at our science, and I think it really helped coming into the new building where the students could have access to, actual labs, which that helps when you're trying to run a science curriculum. So that, I'm very thankful that, the town and the district, put money forth for the building, and that's really starting to show in our Mcats scores that the students have access to, fully functional state-of-the-art labs. So that's been very, very helpful.
So you think that has to do with the Mcats improvement in science? Because I do remember when it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I remember that it was like targeted questions that they had gone through, and we were just not covering the work in class.
Yep, no,
Do you not remember that?
I think it was part of that, and I think it's also the access to the labs. Yeah, it's a shift.
In the new standards for
Yep.
science and the implementation of a newly aligned curriculum with a new science.
Okay, because I do remember several years ago it was that there were topics that we were not covering in classrooms, and those are the questions that our kids were missing.
Yep.
On the science MCAT.
Yep.
Okay.
And that, I think, is going to be some of the work we're going to be doing going forward at all schools to try to help look at those questions where we're falling to move kids into the higher categories.
And as far as the middle school, too, if we were teaching earth science in 6th grade, they were getting tested on earth science in the 8th grade science technology. Now the incorporation of those new standards, we're teaching all 4 of those different genres of science in every grade level.
Right, it reinforces.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
But definitely the science scores, in my opinion, was a group effort to raise those scores, especially at the high school, from everything the middle school teachers have done as well as high school teachers.
Any questions?
I just had some questions. You talked a lot about moving the students from the partial to the meeting and
Yep.
exceeding. What are some of the ideas on actually getting this done? Is it curriculum reviewing curriculum, and ask questions and ask?
What I have done is for ELA, and I'm in the process of doing that for math as well. I've broken down for each class that had taken the MCAS, kind of where we're at for all of the domains. I kind of went through based on our PD from the summer. I went through and kind of broke it down. So where we need to kind of target our expectations, and now that has been given to the English department head. I'm going to be doing the same thing and giving that to the math department head to kind of distribute during common planning, so they can kind of focus on areas, such as, either multiple choice or the open response or vocabulary acquisition. We did very well in, craft and structure and reading. That's an area. Integration of knowledge of ideas was an area that we could certainly use a little bit of help. So I think drilling down into it very deeply and showing teachers some of the domains and targeted areas that we can focus on help move those scores.
Let the teachers decide where to put it in the curriculum?
Yes, and see, kind of share best practices because when you give it to all the teachers, some teachers really did well in some areas, and, kind of meet in common planning. Well, you knocked it out of the park on vocabulary acquisition. What are some of your lessons there? And just, kind of just share best practice. I mean, I think that's what we all want to do. We all want to be successful. So kind of giving that information to the department heads, so during, department head meetings and common plan meetings, they can kind of focus on who's doing well and what are you doing. I mean, to me, that's always good teaching. I always loved when I was in those common planning meetings, hey, you're doing a great job. Tell me what you're doing. Let's figure this out. Or when they would ask me if I had certain scores in certain areas, it was those are the conversations that really help drive success. So my plan is to get that out to the math. It's been in the hands of the English department. I need to do that for math as well.
Another thing that might be noteworthy too, district-wide this year, during the second faculty meeting of the month in every building, teachers will be working on curriculum and vertical alignment. But they will be working some of those days building-based, and then 4 times this year we will have a broader group meeting. We'll have a K through 5 vertical team meeting 4 times this year, and same thing for grades 6 through 12. So there's, I think, a greater focus on this curriculum work for the year ahead.
Any other questions?
So at the elementary school, I think our 2 points of celebration are a 10-point gain in meeting or exceeding expectations in 3rd grade math, and in 5th grade science, surpassing the state by a point, but I'll take that point, right? As you could see in the presentation, we have lots more areas of concern than they do in the middle and the high school. So I want to really say clearly that as the instructional leader of that school, I understand that ultimately that is my responsibility. I own those scores. In the same token, I want to say very clearly that I do not believe that it is due to a lack of effort or hard work on behalf of any of our teachers. We had this conversation at the School Advisory Council. I believe that they are all very hardworking teachers. Is it our job together collectively to examine where are the challenges and the flaws and address those? Absolutely. And I think it's a relatively complex issue. We have, as the superintendent mentioned, a changing demographic. We have students with higher needs, a variety of higher needs coming into our district. We have students who are coming from a school that has a change of principals for the last 3 years in a row. I think that affects, inevitably, the focus and the consistency of the delivery of the curriculum at the lower grades. I talked with each grade level like you were in the classrooms as the students were taking tests. What were some of the concerns? And they range from the children don't type well, so their answers are short, very short, a sentence when it should be much longer. Hopefully that's somewhat addressed by the implementation of more Chromebook carts. At this point we have, I believe, 7, at least 2 in each grade level, and we're looking to make it so that there would be 2 for every team is what we'd like to have. That's a small possibility. 4th grade talked about children just clicking through, right? You just click through those multiple choice answers without reading them, taking the time and the effort to really sort through them. We talked about constructed responses, which are different than open response. A constructed response is that you have to answer part A, and then based on your answer in part A, that affects what your answer to part B is. So if you screw up on this part, then these B or C or D are going to be more challenging. So the teachers talked about changing the more open response type questions that are now in everyday math and making them more targeted, constructed responses. 3rd grade talked about that last year, or before last year, they used to stop in March and just really do MCAS review. And that this last year they decided, no, we're not going to do that. We need to get to these units of study, like the fractions and the higher concepts that are on the MCAS, and make sure that they're covered before the MCAS instead of doing MCAS review. But on the other hand, we had the Reader's Workshop that was implemented in third grade. It doesn't have a writing component. That's reflected in these scores. So this year, they've started, third grade has implemented the full Writer's Workshop. But these things take time. As the superintendent said, we've had 2 vertical team meetings on each subject so far in faculty meetings, and part of that is looking at where we had the most challenges and directing our attention and efforts to that end. What are we going to do about these things? We talked about even a broader sense of culture around the MCAS. Do we need to have more of a school-based encouragement that the third graders are writing to the fifth graders, you can do it, or that the fifth graders are encouraging the third graders in some way? Do we come at it together as where we need to try our best? Because some children come in and they, in an effort to reduce their anxiety, parents have said to them, oh, this really isn't about you, right? This is about how well the school implements the curriculum. And I understand that. I don't want third graders, agonizing over the MCAS. I don't. But do I want them to try their best and to not click? Yes, absolutely. So maybe as a school, we can shift that focus somewhat. The teachers talked about, again, third grade math, that they told students they have scrap paper when they take the test, right? So even though it's a computer-based test, they have scrap paper. And they said, if we see that everyone is using their scrap paper, they incentivized it. This would be the reward for the group, and they felt that it mattered. And it's true, right? If you use a graphic organizer or you use your math scrap paper, then you're putting more effort into your work, and then you're clicking on to get the right answer. So a lot of work ahead of us, absolutely. But many ideas already thrown on the table and being discussed and hopefully being refined.
And as you were talking, and you mentioned the input, the typing.
Yes.
I started wondering, what does the box look like that they're typing, and can they gauge how much they're actually typing? Because on a piece of paper, if I'm writing a response, I can see how much I wrote.
Right.
And I have a spatial sense of how much that is.
Mm-hmm. So you
can they see that?
So you can see the box, but it will say something like, maximum of 1,440 characters. You don't really understand what that means,
right.
The other problem with the spatial awareness is if you're given 2 pieces of text to read and then compare, so you read and then you go down and then you go back up, and so some of the tools that they use in the classroom with paper pencil, with highlighters, with sticky notes, that's not there on that screen. So it is a different experience. And that was actually one of the other things we talked about at the School Advisory Council, is how can we replicate some practice experiences for them on a computer-based testing platform.
And I would say that's exactly what we need to do a little bit more,
right?
Just trying to replicate that early on as much as we can, integrating that with our curriculum, not just focusing on that testing month review. But you also talked about vertical alignment. I thought that was great. I think even aligning with the primary school and working with those teachers and getting vertical teams there too, and start as early as we can. You had mentioned motivating the students. I think getting your staff to talk about how we can motivate the students, whether it's a motivational speaker, you get your best teacher who can really motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen schools even do a free breakfast that day just to try to get them encouraged.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Talking about
You're on
bringing
the
that
right
back. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that, I'm sorry. I would say the typing piece is huge, and the idea of scrolling, where it's their first introduction of Chromebooks in the third grade, and the scrolling piece becomes really tricky for them. So it's very difficult. I can see where the typing, and you're trying to find the answer, and you're trying to look for the evidence, and and now I have to write a sentence and I don't know how to type. It's very overwhelming for them.
Yeah.
And I think with your additional Chromebooks and additional practice, that's only going to help. And aligning your literacy coach that hopefully will come on board will help align all of that so that it moves a little bit smoother, I would think.
So the professional development this year, in the recent years at Turkey Hill, they've been working with a consultant from Teachers 21. That consultant is now going to be working with the second grade teachers as well, and we will continue to expand
Move that down.
and roll back to include the first grade teachers and the kindergarten. Additionally, when Mrs. Curtin came in the role of principal at the primary, I will say that we wanted to know if she could get Chromebooks for the second grade. So we took some of those Chromebooks that were being recycled in the replacement process for students at the high school and put additional Chromebooks in a cart at the primary for the second graders to start to use and get the feel for keyboard, really. Additionally, when we had the data workshop this summer, Mrs. Burton worked as part of a team with Mr. Adams and Mrs. Champagne looking at the Turkey Hill data, and she is very committed to the fact that the primary contributes to the results that they're getting at the Turkey Hill, right? And she recognizes that that's where the foundation starts. So she was very invested in looking at the data and what can the data tell us that even teachers at the primary school can be working on to build a stronger foundation for the kiddos when they get to the Turkey Hill to perform a little bit more strongly, right? Definitely, the stress and anxiety is a challenge. Again, it's striking that balance, right, where you're reducing anxiety over the test. We definitely don't want students stressed out. They're not going to perform their best if they have that level of anxiety. But it's finding that sweet spot where they have to do their best and they recognize that it's important for them to do their best. And we'll continue to look at that as well. But I think there are several things that we're putting in place to ultimately have an impact on the students' performance, really, and growth that's demonstrated in grades 3 through 5. We have good work to do. We know the work we need to do. Unfortunately, with limited resources, that work is going to take some time, right? We want to see forward progress, but obviously, if we had unlimited funds, then we could hire the coaches that we need and have even more professional development, additional materials, additional Chromebooks, a teacher to teach keyboarding for our younger students. You know, all of these things would have an impact. I think that it's important to note, oftentimes you hear out in the public, oh, they teach to the test. In the case of trying to expose our third graders, or even our second graders, to the tools that they will be using to demonstrate what they know. If they don't know how to effectively use the tool, they can't convey what they know. Would we have different results if it were a paper pencil test?
Okay, and that's where I'm going to stop, because this is historically the case for this school.
Right.
It is historical. Even when it was on pen and paper, they did not succeed. So there's something going on, especially at the fourth grade level, since I have been on school committee. So I am not going to sit there and say it has anything to do with the way that they're taking the test.
But it's one piece.
Right, it is one piece, but it's not everything.
No, definitely.
Okay, so it's historically, the number is low, especially for our fourth grade.
And again,
For the
we
last
look
6
at
years.
performance historically statewide, fourth grade.
And in the past, they told us it was because there was an equity involved. So So I feel like...
So there was a shift in the paper test from 3rd grade to 4th grade. In 3rd grade, they had one booklet with the question, and they wrote their answer in one booklet. In the 4th grade, they shifted to 2 booklets. One booklet with the questions, one booklet for their answers. So there is some value to teaching the students strategies to effectively take the test and the tools that they have access to effectively demonstrate what they know. So it is one piece. Clearly, it's not the whole piece. It's not. But we are looking deeply at the data. And I think perhaps for the first time in a number of years, you have a true partner as an instructional leader at the primary school invested in supporting the development of knowledge in all of these areas so that the kiddos can perform a little bit stronger when they're at the turkey room. And I think that will ultimately have an impact. Other questions? I'll invite Mrs. Hanscom to address any questions about
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
When I looked at the MCAS alt and the ELL information, there was a nice jump of progress between last year's data and this year's data. We didn't put the comparison up from last year's and this year's, but just to give you an idea, last year we had 86% of the students test in ELL, and this year we had 100%. And last year, 56% of the students made progress, and this year 76% made progress. So that's a jump of 20 percentage points, which was really great to see. We had less students. We had 32 last year, 24 this year, but that number tends to fluctuate a lot from year to year, and so we may see an influx back up next year. A lot of times we get a lot of move-ins throughout the year from this population, so. And depending on what's going on worldwide, too, like with the Puerto Rico crisis, the weather and stuff, we may get an influx, too. With the MCAS alt portfolios, not much of a change from last year to this year, except the great news is we had one student portfolio that was incomplete last year. We had 0 this year that were incomplete, so we made that jump. And Dr. Berman also asked me to make sure that all of the teachers who are doing MCAS alts go to all of the DESE trainings this year, and I've checked in with all of them. They've gone to the first training, and I went to my training today for admin, so I think we're all on board with what exactly the expectations are, because an incomplete really is, we don't ever want to see an incomplete, because that means that we did something wrong. And then that's not fair to the students, and it's not fair to the schools, because they don't get the points that they need towards their accountability. Thank you. And that's all that I could, like, for there was very few students that took the MCAS portfolio, and he says there should be less than 1%. And so we do fall into that range, which is great. That means that we have what the state requires us or wants us to see as far as not over-identifying students to take the MCAS alt tests. So as many students as possible who can take that MCAS are taking them, and only the ones that truly need that MCAS alt are the ones that we're identifying that need it. And I think that's a good thing for us to be able to have that high standard for students, because what I have to do now is when a student, even in 3rd grade, when they're slotted to take an MCAS alt, we have to send a letter home from my office saying that they're realistically taken off of the graduation track if they're taking an MCAS alt. And so that letter has to go home every time we say that a student is going to take an MCAS alt. So it's a big deal, and the state wants to make sure that parents are aware of that even at a very young age, and as they should be. So I'm happy that we haven't had that. I haven't had to have the big conversation with the district as far as, oh my God, we've got 30 alts, and we're way over the average. We've been right at that 1% or below, so I think that's a good thing. Any questions about either of those areas?
No.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. The next item on the agenda is the authorization for the end-of-the-year report. So annually, the business office reports out the end-of-the-year report to the school committee, seeking approval and acceptance of the report and allowing the chairperson to sign it. Just a quick summary of what this report is all about. It's a document that records revenues and expenditures in the district. So those expenditures are broken down by general education, special education, and it's called undistributed. So that's more of a district-wide cost. It's kind of spread out through the district. Also in the report are expenditures related to grants and revolving accounts. And then finally, there is an analysis that the state uses called Schedule 4, which is a breakdown of transporting students. Schedule 4 is a breakdown of our special education students. Schedule 7 is our transportation costs and the breakdown of the costs that the district incurs during the year. And Schedule 19 is anticipated expenditures for next year, which is really based on the budget that was approved by the town earlier this year. This report, it looks a little bit different than the munis reports that I provide. But the information is, all that information finds a spot in this report. And it's reported out, so all of our teacher salaries are in one line instead of building by building. The town participates in some of this data as well. So they've got some of their numbers that they provide for this report. And ultimately, the town accountant, Ms. Brochu, signs off on this report before we submit it, which she has tonight. So she has reviewed the numbers and is ready for the submission. There's a lot of information in here. It looks a little bit different from our munis reports. So, do you have any questions about the report in general, and or maybe some of the costs that are outlined? So there's a school committee action, which is authorizing the chairperson.
I'll make a motion to accept and approve the end-of-the-year report.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I need a motion to authorize it. Sign.
I move to authorize the chair to sign the end-of-year report.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you.
Budget transfers is also mentioned, right?
What was that?
Budget transfers, now you're...
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you have in front of you is a reconciliation of our salary and wages account from the budget that you approved on April 3rd, which went to town meeting at the beginning of May. All I can say that we prepared this budget about 6 months ago, and a lot of things have changed. Resignations, retirements that we didn't know about, new hires, different salaries. So if If you would allow me just to point out a couple of changes, if that's all right. So the first section on the transfer list are some new contracts for some of our administrators. So it's increasing those supply accounts. So the next group is really our teachers and shifting money around within the teacher accounts. And I want to bring your attention to one new line item that I'm proposing, which is shifting money into a primary school librarian position. 6 months ago, we didn't know our teacher was going to retire down at the primary school, so a new position was created where it was a technology and library media specialist. So this basically shifts her salary into two spots, into the teacher salary account and into the library account. So why do we do that? Because it makes the end of the year report easier for me to report. So all the stuff is kind of tied together. One of the next big transfers is moving middle school money, teacher money, to the high school. So this is directly related to the shift on the foreign language. We originally had budgeted a 60-40 split. Now we're budgeting it at an 80-20 split. So we're moving more money into the high school. Also at that middle school, we did, at the high school level, there were some new teachers with higher salaries that came in. So we had to increase that a little bit more. Our middle school, the next section is our special ed section, and it's our teachers. So we hired 2 new middle school teachers. 2 inexperienced teachers left the district, and we hired 2 very experienced quality teachers to replace them. So we had to make that adjustment. I hope this is not too confusing, but I think it's important that I do the best job explaining this. The speech pathologist money is being shifted drastically within the district based upon the workload. So our elementary school speech pathologist is primarily working at the primary school. So we're shifting her money down at that level. The speech pathologist that was at the high school, middle school, resigned. We hired a new speech pathologist, and now her workload is 50% at Turkey Hill, 25% at middle, and 25% at high school. So that's why that money is being really shifted around a bit. Once again, it comes down to reporting where these teachers are teaching in the end of the year report. So this is going to make my job a lot easier. The next section is paraprofessionals. And we had done a lot of shifting of FTEs within the schools based upon student needs. So a paraprofessional from the ACE program went to the high school. Let's see. There was a shift of students from the primary to the elementary, and the elementary to the middle school, which ultimately resulted in the middle school getting an additional paraprofessional. So that's where that shift of money is coming from. And then finally, we settled on a contract with our athletic director, and we're just increasing that original budgeted amount. So when I prepared this report, I was shocked by the amount of money that was being shifted around. The money is being shifted around in the right spots for reporting purposes, so that's reassuring when I went through this.
I have family abroad. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you need to send some money. So when you need to do that, you
All
send it
this.
transfer-wise. They give you
No idea what happened. And then one other thing we used to do, the last 2 years, we did a June amendment to the budget. We didn't do that this year. We just kind of let it ride, and we were going to do the adjustment in the fall. So we're ready for all of our hiring is done. We're ready for the transfer. This should reconcile all of our salary and wages account for school-based staff. Jimmy?
Well, where are we getting the 23 cents?
With that?
Excuse me?
I said, where are we getting the 23 cents?
Or the end balance?
Resulting balance.
Is it?
Is that correct?
So I closed it, yeah, I think, honestly, I think it's out of the athletic coaches. There is 23 cents in there.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just pointing out that it was just a difference of 23 cents.
Yeah,
That's all.
okay. I had it down to the pennies,
I
and
know,
I just
and I
said,
just
you know
looked
what,
at it, and I was
that's
like,
way
it's
too much
23.
detail for
Yeah.
the town accountant to
Yeah.
transfer that, so,
Yeah.
sorry.
I'll make a motion to accept the line item transfer request in the amount of $297,540 as outlined in the appendix.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining. My sister-in-law. is a
Oh, right,
paraprofessional.
okay.
I think you did a wonderful job explaining all of that. It's nice to know exactly where everything went and how, what percentage of what position ended up in what school. So it's very helpful.
Thank you. I tried to keep the
Nice and clean.
keep the money in, with like all the para money, all the teacher money, pretty close together. So, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's nice and clean.
It's a strict strategy for
Oh, not right there. I shuffle papers too much. I've heard that.
Okay.
Okay.
So last year, I spent time in an entry process and then presented a report of findings as a result of that process. And I told you at that time that I would take those findings and develop a strategy for continuous improvement. So the first part of that document includes our mission statement, which we now read at every school committee meeting. So the mission of the Lunenburg Public Schools is to provide all students with the skills, confidence, and passion for lifelong learning so that they may find their own paths to successful careers, active citizenship, and rewarding lives. The vision is also part of the district strategic plan. And the original vision statement you can see in white. I'm adding to that to make this vision a bit more robust and maybe a little bit more articulated. So I'm suggesting that the vision moving forward should be that the Lunenburg Public Schools is committed to becoming a leader in education by focusing on its values of attending to the personal well-being of its students, providing high-quality curricula and student-centered instruction for deeper learning at all levels, and promoting the development of attributes and skills necessary for continuous learning for all. So part of this exercise in developing the strategy for continuous improvement is to develop a theory of action statement. Basically, a theory of action statement is an if-then statement. So if we develop a strong instructional leadership team with the capacity to lead a community of educators committed to continuous learning, approaching teaching and learning with a growth mindset, and developing social-emotional learning competencies, and we consistently put the needs of our students first, including through allocation of resources, creation of collaborative and flexible learning environments, and authentic, interactive, relevant, and engaging learning experiences, then our educators will be recognized as leaders in the field, and our students will be self-aware, well-rounded, resilient, passionate, confident, capable, and prepared for future challenges along their paths to successful careers, active citizenship, and rewarding lives. There are 4 strategic objectives, and I gave you a preview of those strategic objectives, I believe, last June. So the first objective is transforming teaching and learning. And the objective here is to ensure teaching and learning are student-centered and inclusive by establishing effective teams of educational leaders to accomplish the essential work for transforming practice, and hiring and developing excellent educators who are continually learning and adapting practice to meet the needs of all students. And I've noted here that this particular strategic objective is a nice crosswalk back to goals 1, 2, 3, and 5 in the strategic plan, the district strategic plan. And while not a predominant or strong and obvious connection to goals 4 and 7, which are around digital literacy and enrichment, although a few years down the road, once we've addressed some of the other needs in terms of curriculum and programmatic offerings, those would take a higher priority under this particular objective. So, under transforming teaching and learning, the first priority would be to establish effective teams to lead the essential work of teaching and learning, including the development of high-quality, rigorous, relevant, and enriching curricula with a priority focus on literacy and social-emotional learning. Identification and communication of expectations for demonstration of high-quality teaching and learning competencies, and implementation of effective instructional practices, interventions, communication, and professional development. Priority 2, establish a district-wide, rigorous, and multi-phased hiring process to recruit, select, develop, and retain highly skilled, student-centered teachers and administrators and other personnel with the capacity to contribute to the forward progress of the organization. And priority 3, create a model of high-quality professional development where teachers teach teachers and the district facilitates regional professional development to optimize professional education opportunities for staff. The second strategic objective, cultivating climate and culture. So the goal here is to create a culture that values data use and fosters continuous learning in a climate that is safe, caring, inclusive, and reflective of our core values. And there's the crosswalk to the district strategic plan, goals 1 and 6. Priority 1, under cultivating climate and culture. We're going to look to foster a climate of safety, caring, and inclusivity for all in our district through secure facilities, safety training, evidence-based social, emotional, and mental health curricula, and building strong student-staff relationships. Priority 2, we will foster a culture of learning and data use where students, faculty, staff, and administrators analyze, synthesize, and apply knowledge and skill to work collaboratively to solve problems, think critically, and adjust practice. Learn collaboratively from each other and from mistakes. Engage deeply in reflective practice, and justify allocation of resources needed to ensure a high-quality, interactive, deeper learning experience with appropriate levels of support and challenge for all students. Priority 3, ensure that the district has one clear set of core values, and the messaging of those core values is consistent across the district and community, and reflective of the culture we seek to establish. Currently, if you go into the primary school, you will see things posted around the building, maybe not as much right now with the new principal, but last year, Panda Pride. And the letters for Pride all stood for different values that they were looking to promote with the students at the primary school. When students transition to Turkey Hill, it's CARES. Each of those letters, again, another value that they're looking to promote with the students in the building. When they move to the middle school, they engage in an exercise where they come together and they determine what the values of the school are, and that's an annual exercise. And then more traditionally at the high school, they sort of stick to the script of the listed core values that are part of the existing strategic plan. I also know that our athletic director has another set of core values, what it means to be a knight. And there are values that go along with that as well. I'm saying that we need one set of clear core values that transitions district-wide. I think that we need to be clear in the message that we send to our students about what we value, and communicate that clearly as well to parents and the community. Strategic objective, communication, and operations. The goal here to improve operational efficiencies, including communication, in order to increase the organization's capacity to execute the district's mission and vision. And here you can see a crosswalk back to Goal 8. Priority 1, under communication and operations. To improve the operational efficiencies, including communication within the district, between administration and teams of faculty and staff, with families and with the community, in order to improve shared responsibilities to meet students' needs, decrease time spent on clerical tasks and management, and increase time spent on innovation and instructional leadership, including allocation of resources and reorganization of roles and responsibilities. And the last strategic objective, equity, access, achievement, and opportunity for all students. The goal here, to ensure all students are provided equal access to a high-quality education that is collaborative, interactive, and relevant, with an appropriate level of support and challenge so that they can become well-rounded, resilient, confident, and capable young adults adequately prepared for future challenges. And the crosswalk back to goals 1 and 6 in the strategic plan. Priority 1, implement tiered systems of supports to meet students' social, emotional, behavioral, and academic needs so that they can access and find success with all facets of a well-rounded education, academics, athletics, activities, and leadership. Priority 2, evaluate the current status of equity across the district including continuity and consistency of practice and process, and outline appropriate actions necessary to improve equity, access, and opportunity for all students so that they may realize their fullest potential. And underlying all of this is the strategic foundation. Basically a statement of attainment. What do we need to attain these priorities and the vision? So attainment of the strategic priorities and vision is dependent upon staff and leadership embracing the opportunity for teacher leadership, engaging in reflective practice and seeking out professional learning opportunities, collaborating and holding each other accountable as we continually strive for excellence, believing that we can maintain high academic standards while supporting students academically, socially, and emotionally, and recognizing that we have an obligation to create a learning environment that meets all students' needs and provides equal opportunity for all students. So this is the high-level roadmap. This is the work I'm suggesting that the district needs to focus on for the next 1 to 3 years, right? We will be reviewing this annually, making adjustments annually. We might discover new needs that need to be incorporated here. We might complete some of the priorities that are outlined in here. So what comes next is the part I think Jim's waiting for. So the next steps, after the school committee approves this strategy, that you agree that these are the areas that we need to focus on and do good work. Action plans for each of the priorities will be developed and executed. And what does that entail? So this is an example of a template of what would be incorporated in the action plan for each of the priorities. We would include early indicators of success, our anticipated outcomes, the resources that are needed, who would take the lead driving that particular work in that priority. We would have a series of action items, the outputs from those action items, responsibilities assigned for each of those action items, and a timeline for completion of those action items. And again, that's for each priority, not each objective. There are 4 objectives, but there are many, many more priorities. So a detailed action plan is the next step once you approve the high-level roadmap forward. Questions?
So this team, you're making a team, or you already have your team in place?
So when we think about this particular teaching and learning objective, establishing effective teams. The elementary literacy team is one example. The professional development committee is another example. The behavioral health advisory council is another example. Vertical teams, another example. If we're going to do work on developing a communication plan, there will need to be a team assembled to do that work.
Right.
So there are many teams that will have to be established, and each of those will be tasked with actions that would be taken over the next 1 to 3 years. I think that that's the critical piece. The district needs to leverage the expertise and passion of the faculty and staff here. You saw the power of the Professional Development Committee. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, you saw another presentation by the Behavioral Health Advisory. You can see the impact that they're having, the work that they're doing. We need to do much work. I need to have many teams put together to drive the work. That's the way forward, really. Thoughts?
Well, you'd anticipated what I was going to ask.
And how would we...
Yay.
I know,
How would you know that?
I know
But
the
I
question.
don't see anything in the strategy plan that or strategy goals that you put out that I could not stand behind. I think it reinforces what at least this board has talked about, or this committee has talked about, in terms of student-centered. Everything is about the students and making sure that they are successful in their careers here, to make them to allow them to be successful in their careers elsewhere. So I would certainly be on board with what you've outlined.
I just wanted to say that I'm impressed with the rigorousness and the high standards that it shows. We ask our students for high standards all the time, and you're holding everyone to high standards. And I think that's a wonderful position to go from. And I think that people rise to those standards, and your staff here is extremely dedicated and will rise right along with you. I think it's a great plan. Ambitious, but a great plan.
Very ambitious, yes.
But wasn't that what we were looking for?
Oh, absolutely.
And also, it's a great roadmap with a great initial plan to begin, how to those first action steps. So, yes.
And it really will be a team effort to execute and achieve everything that's outlined.
But as you said, the committees that are already in place have all had opportunities, like the Professional Development Committee, like the Mental Health. And they're doing great things because, as you said, you put a group of experts, passionate people together and let them work together and do what they're good at. So you're going to get great results. And where you've got that greater vision standing sort of with everything, you have that greater vision to lead and guide. So it's going to be successful.
The timing of this goes along with the fact that you're going to need a new district strategic plan at some point in the future, correct? Like it's usually about 5 years.
So in the way that we think about things moving forward, typically districts now are moving away from the static 5-year strategic plan and moving to something that's a little bit shorter term and truly focused on the instructional core, teaching and learning, right? That's the biggest priority. Even the work on communication and operations impacts teaching and learning because we're looking to free up time spent on operational matters, including communication, right? So that we can focus more of our time on the instruction, the instructional leadership. We've had a lot of conversation. So the development of the document that you see before you, this sort of 1.5-page high-level summary, really is the result of all the work that was done last year, the report of findings, thinking about next steps from the results of that, and work with the leadership team. Work with the leadership team actually throughout last year, through the summer. We spent a lot of time together working on many projects this summer. And we have continued to have dialogue around the work that we know we need to do. I don't want to speak for them, but I think that they're on board and excited to have a vision forward that can unite us all around the work that we know we have ahead of us. I will also say that I shared this with the newly formed District Advisory Council to get their sort of perspective on things. And I think I don't want to speak for them either, but I think there was no debate from that group as well, that these are the things that we need to do.
So you need us to vote to implement it so that you can move forward?
Accept this.
Yes.
At least come up with a plan for...
Right.
Yeah. So
This is the direction forward.
I will move to approve the district strategy improvement plan that the superintendent just outlined.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, so I'll get to work on those actions.
Oh, yeah, get on that.
I can't wait to see how you measure this.
I know, I was waiting for you. Jim, I thought you said, I was waiting for you to say, and how do you plan on measuring?
She
knew it!
She did it ahead of me. She
I
anticipated what I was
know,
going to say.
and I knew
I'm
that.
looking at her going, this all sounds like pie in the sky, great stuff.
I know, I was waiting for you.
How we
but
get
How are we getting there?
Yep.
I have a
And-
committed team, we're going to make it happen.
Yep.
Well, yeah, if you put it together, a team like the other teams that you put together, I have no doubt
Yeah.
that that's going to happen.
So
Okay.
good work ahead.
So now we're on to your goals, superintendent goals. Well, I thought that was it.
That could be the...
You will see that there's a
Okay.
connection.
Okay.
So goal 1 is a district improvement goal, moving forward with a focus on teaching and learning. So the strategy for continuous improvement identifies those 4 strategic objectives that are designed to impact teaching and learning district-wide and will require development and execution of strategic priority action plans over the next 3 years. So I will develop plans for all of those priorities. However, they may need to be adjusted annually as we see what we've accomplished and what additional work maybe has, risen to the level of something that we would want to incorporate into the action plan. So I will report progress on each of those strategic objectives, the higher level objectives. I'll provide you an update late winter and another update on progress late spring. Goal 2, again, district improvement, and this, may be a goal that you want to join with me as a team to execute. I know that Mr. Cassidy and I will share this as a team goal, and that is a student-centered budget development. So in order to ensure that resources are used to achieve highest impact on teaching and learning and meeting the needs of all students, the district leadership team will work collaboratively from October through April to identify and evaluate district needs, present a prioritized list of new staff, curricula, or program requests, and based on prioritized need, determine which items on that prioritized list will be incorporated with justifications and available data in the superintendent's recommended FY21 budget. And this is similar to the goal that you all had for yourselves last year, right? I think it's a worthy goal to continue. Goal 3 is a student learning goal, and this is a goal that will be a team goal for the entire instructional leadership team. We know that students must have their basic needs met in order to be cognitively available to learn. Therefore, by April, the instructional leadership team will increase student access to learning by assessing the social, emotional, behavioral needs of each school, determining what tiered supports and interventions are needed, pilot supports and interventions, and have a recommendation for a tiered system of supports and interventions for next school year. And lastly, goal 4 is a professional practice goal, and I will continue with the new superintendent induction program. I will continue to hone skills in instructional leadership through attending 6 day-long workshops supporting and learning from cohort peers and coaches through problems of practice protocols, and engaging in monthly coaching sessions in the process of completing the second year of the induction program, with workshops and coaching sessions happening between August and May. Thoughts or questions about the goals? And I've provided for all of you something that outlines with a few action steps and benchmarks for each of these goals as well.
Benchmarks, Jen, benchmarks.
I think they're very focused on where you want to go.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they make perfect sense coming out of the work that you're doing.
Right.
I think the key really to having greater success in meeting your objectives is to really narrow your focus and narrow the focus of your entire team and your entire staff. If we're all working in the same direction, we're going to make more progress.
Yeah, you're not in the weeds.
Not in the weeds.
They're not in the weeds. They're just...
And it's not unclear, and
Right.
people aren't going off
Yeah.
in different directions.
Yeah.
We're really focused on these things.
So we need to vote to...
And I did like the benchmarks, but...
Yes, okay, I knew that. I think that's what she said.
I make a motion to accept the superintendent's goals for the 2019-2020 school year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, so Mr. Londa for the capital plan,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Are we going to have
What?
PowerPoint again?
Do you have another one?
I don't know, there was one in our
No, no.
package.
It's just one page.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean that?
Mr. Wanda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
never mind.
narrative and then the
Sorry.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So the spreadsheet for the capital plan FY21 through FY30, this really is unchanged since the last time you've seen it. We haven't yet received anything from the capital planning, but I would expect that soon we'll get something from them that'll ask us to load this type of data into a shared spreadsheet that they've been using. But my recommendation would be that become the basis of the plan. The second sheet I have talks about the specific requests for FY21, and this one slide would become the basis of a briefing to this capital planning. So there's the three recommendations I have on this slip, and that's in the priority that I would recommend they be carried. The first one would be asbestos abatement for Turkey Hill Elementary School. This would be the continuation of the work that we've been doing for going on 5 years, and that is to abate asbestos, fireproofing, and floor tiles in 3 rooms. These are all on the first floor of the classroom wing. Room 102, which is a general classroom. Room 113, which goes back quite a ways, but was a former home ec room, and it's been used by our special services. And then room 114, and that is the art room at Turkey Hill. So the estimated cost for this project, I'm carrying it at $123,500, with $115,500 being just for the asbestos removal in the classrooms. That number is based upon, in our last time going out for bid this past April, we had a price in for room 102, so that informs this. So it's slightly more than just 3 times the amount that we had for room 102. And both room 113 and 114 are pretty large rooms. We're carrying additional $2,000 for architect's fees. Now, that's not the total cost for the architect. We typically do bring on an architect during the prior school year to kind of get the planning done, so we can have something that can go out for bid and we can get out to the marketplace in a competitive fashion, so that we're not at the very last minute trying to get this project bid. So we typically do that by defining the project with the architect in the February time frame. But we do have some costs that come into the next fiscal year in the architect monitoring project completion and project administration. And then the last part is $6,000 for the planner and a monitoring fee. And this has been kind of a moving target year to year. And a lot of it is tied to how well the asbestos contractor moves through the process. So we bring somebody on. We've been using ATC Group to monitor the project. They're there to make sure that the contractor is following all the HERO requirements. They do monitoring of the site, and they do our final clearance reporting on air quality, both inside and outside the containment area, and then do a final report. So that's additional part of that. We only have a small amount of FY20 capital funds. We appropriated $162,000 for this year, and we did expend almost all of it. Said the $615. I would just want that to carry forward, to have that available for contingency for next year. I think that would just be a prudent thing. It's just not that much money, but we do have that money that hasn't been committed and won't get used for the FY20 project. The second request was for air conditioning design funds, and we're asking for $10,000. The $10,000 would really go to two different things. One, it would help us get a design pulled together for the third capital request, air conditioning for the administration area at Turkey Hill. But probably more importantly, it would allow us to get some preliminary design work done, particularly to come to grips with total costs for adding the primary school air conditioning, which is the FY22 project that we're currently carrying at $290,000 for providing condensers to mesh up with our energy recovery units on the roof of the classroom wing of the primary school, to be able to allow us to take advantage of the cooling for that classroom wing. So the design work would be $10,000. It would not be our total design costs, but it would be an initial cost, and then we would likely have additional design costs that will be part of the FY22 and carried in that classroom project, in the primary school project. So some portion of that would also be some design work as well. And then the third project, as I mentioned, was the administration air conditioning for Turkey Hill. There we're looking at trying to do the entire administrative area, and right now that would be for the nurse's office and the nurse's suite, the guidance suite, and the administrative suite, as well as what is the workroom. What's called the workroom from Turkey Hill is really not that any longer. When the school was initially built, it was a workroom. It had space for storage and a variety of needs, but really what it has morphed into is the head-end room for the school. And so a lot of servers in there, all of our phone system, the basic part of our intercom system is there. All of the security camera systems that we've installed are there, and so it is an area generating a fair amount of heat. Currently, it is not air conditioned. There is an exhaust fan there, but we think this is an appropriate thing to air condition, and so we would probably look at one split system that would do the principal's office, the head end room, and the secretary's office, and we would look to probably do, like I said, 3 split systems, all of them probably roof-mounted condensers, and that would be able to control these with wall-mounted units. And we're estimating that at around $28,000 to get that put in place. So those are the 3 projects, and that's my recommendation in the order that they be prioritized. So that's kind of what I'm proposing. I'm open for any questions you might have about, these projects or how they fit in.
Can you just remind me, was the air conditioning on the capital plan last year?
It was. So this is a project that's been moving forward for a very long time. We've been, cognizant of the fact that we needed to get a really firm number on what it would cost for the primary school air conditioning. The primary school, we knew that it had been prepped when the school was built in 2004 for air conditioning, but we did not, avail ourselves of that. And we do have space on the roof for condensers to go, but it's not a cheap project. It's, would entail buying the big condensers, getting them craned to the roof, electrical and piping for that to the energy recovery unit. So pretty substantial project, but all of this kind of needs to work together, and the thought was to leverage the design work to ensure that we got good result for Turkey Hill, but also really to know what the true costs were going to be going into a much larger project for the primary school.
We need to make a motion to approve this so that it can go to the capital planning committee.
I'll make a motion to approve the FY21 capital plan as presented.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Cyber report.
It's a requirement the Sizewell has to provide us with an annual report, so it's provided to you.
I will
Make a motion to accept the annual size report.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I need a
that.
second, sorry.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Just,
And then I'll aye.
okay. The outdoor facility signage that I believe you guys
Mr.
talked at the
Londo's
last meeting.
Yeah, we did.
Right? So we just need to approve it or add anything if you think. I just wondered if we needed to make reference to, we have alcoholic beverages, tobacco, e-cigarettes, but we don't have marijuana, which is currently legal in our state for 21 and older. So I'm just wondering if we need to make mention of that.
I hate putting that on a sign, but I think we need to.
Right. I think if it's not
Illegal
crystal
substance-
clear, or any kind of illegal substances,
Well, we can't say
it's not
'cause
illegal
it's not,
anymore, though.
right.
That's the problem. That's why I want to write it on the board,
Right.
because it's legal.
Well, how about drugs? They could be either legal.
Not in a public place, I know.
Right. They could be legal or illegal.
Right.
So alcoholic beverages, drugs,
Drugs.
tobacco, e-cigarettes.
But,
Does that include Tylenol?
right.
No, it would have to be illicit
You have to
drugs.
be- yeah,
What
you
is
have to-
illicit, though? It all
Does
comes-
marijuana fall?
I don't know
fall in that
anymore.
I don't know.
It does in other states, not in the Commonwealth. So it's tricky. It's very tricksy.
illegal drugs, marijuana, or compounds thereof.
Did we have that in our policy, right? Do we have it in our, written in our policy somewhere? I think then we
Yes,
should
we
use the
do.
same verbiage or something
We did
similar
do
to
that
that for our
last year.
policy.
We did, I actually think that's a
Remember?
good idea.
So I
Yeah.
think that the verbiage in the policy, whatever we cover on school, for our students, we should
Yep.
have
Absolutely.
on school grounds.
Yep.
Okay.
I know last time I mentioned something about cleaning up after your dogs.
Oh, yeah, that would be
Those
nice.
Dogs are forbidden.
They are
but
forbidden.
Even if you have a service animal, you may have to clean up after them.
However, they're not. How do we enforce that after hours? Because I have been here.
I don't know.
And I'm not going to be the dog police.
Is it enforced during the
Yeah,
day? Because I saw somebody walking their dog
I did.
in the parking lot. You just...
I saw
This
the
morning or
other
yesterday
day,
morning?
yeah. Yeah, Mr. Londa.
So this is the one I got done
Mhm.
editing this, I said, okay, obviously there's a couple different options here. So our current option, or our current practice is pretty much we have no restrictions whatsoever.
Yes.
And so we get everything from people walking their dog on leash, to people having
There's no
dogs-
leash law. We have no leash law in Lunenburg either, so we can't enforce the leash because it's not a town.
Well, yes,
Have
but
to
there,
have them under
we have a
control.
restraint, well, like, there is not a leash
Right.
law. What is the appropriate term for
They have to
restraint?
be
Under your control.
Under control.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think we have really no guidance, and that's one option. The second option is that we have here, which is the ban on dogs, which we do have lots of people, we do have a fair number of people who come to the school grounds to walk their dogs.
Yes.
Have you witnessed any service animals?
We don't really see
No.
many of them.
Mm-mm.
And then I thought of another option, which I didn't put down, but I certainly wanted to be able to just to run this by.
Uh-huh.
So the third option could be just to go to something that's middle ground that says all dogs must be leashed at all times and owners must clean up after them. Which would still allow, obviously, somebody to walk a dog here, but we would at least not have people turning dogs loose
Right.
on school grounds and would not allow them to use, fenced playground areas as dog park, because we did have that going on.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
So that was...
That was the last
yeah,
meeting we
that was-
discussed that.
Dogs go to
Wasn't that
dog
great?
parks and not go to the schools would be my recommendation. Keep the dogs at the dog parks.
Right.
Yes.
So as I said, I thought that was a third alternative that I meant to talk to you about tonight. Well, of the three, I kind of think that the dog ban is an appropriate thing, only because, like I said, you have kids here. But if you think that's too far, then I would just recommend that we go with all dogs must be on leash at all times, and owners must clean up after that.
Yeah, I don't think the ban is too far.
I don't. Our public parks have no dogs allowed signs in portions, in their fenced areas.
Yeah, they do.
The Parks
Marshall Park,
Department put
yeah.
those up.
Yeah,
They're at all
yes,
the parks.
yes.
Fitzgerald
Yeah.
Field, everywhere.
And I think if we're just looking at service animals, then I don't think we're going to have a big concern about waste, dog waste.
Right.
More than likely not.
And the reality is some people are going to do what they're going to do regardless of what the signage says, but it will certainly make
when
it clear for people.
It's the ones that come through for games, and the person sitting there lets them come through for games. Okay, then they're at the game with the person who's holding. So we have that happening right now.
Right, and so I think that
Where
when...
people are bringing their dogs to watch
to
a game.
games, because, yes, that's very, very common. I know soccer utilizes it, and I believe we put it, there are, like LISA has maps that are accessed on the Neshoba Valley Youth Soccer League page, and there are portions that let you know if that facility allows dogs or not. So, for example, if a family had a child going to here or a field in Clinton or wherever, you can look, and if there are no dogs allowed. And I thought they were updating that to say no dogs when we put up all the signage here that said no dogs for the fields. But people still come with them, and they're still around, but I think having no dogs reduces the number you get.
Right, because when they come into the game, whose job is it then to tell them to leave the facility because no dogs are allowed?
The site manager.
Right, and so that would be,
That would-
yeah.
Who may or may not be around.
You're not, yeah, especially at night games.
But I think having that signage, if the AD were on the property, he could speak to the individuals and point to the...
It also
fact
gives
that
us
it's posted.
recourse if there's ever an issue. If there's an issue, we can say it was clearly stated that there's the no dogs allowed sign and someone came with a dog, if there were ever an
It's
issue to
starting.
arise.
I think it's a starting
Yeah.
point. We can have the public also. They're going to be reporters and help.
Yep.
One recommendation I had was maybe changing the word tobacco to even smoking. Alcoholic beverages, smoking, and e-cigarettes are strictly forbidden, and that could take care of the issues.
Except that
The other thing to think
marijuana is
about
not
too
always
is the
smoked.
more words
Yeah.
you have on a sign,
I know,
Yeah.
the words get...
Right.
yeah.
People will read it.
right,
That's the thing, get too wordy.
so that might work.
Well, and I think that, but also with the use of tobacco, it's chewing tobacco.
Yeah.
Yep, true.
Right.
Nobody wants those cups of spit all over the place.
There's no professional
Yeah,
ball
but-
players
I was
here.
I was
Come
going to say,
on.
people...
We don't have professional ball players living here?
But, yeah,
So how many signs are we talking about?
So,
Like this sign, is this the sign, or are we going to have... Multiple
So we would
signs.
have this for the middle school, high school, and we'd have essentially at every entry point into the...
So like over there?
So into the high school parking lot.
Right.
And off of Mass Avenue, coming up by the Paseos, we have it off of Oak Avenue. So those, we would see 3 here. We'd see one of these also at the primary school. The only thing on the primary school, I would amend the time to 10 p.m. instead of...
Okay.
Because we shut all the lights off at roughly 10:50.
Right.
And then the second sign, which is just for the turf field, we have 2 of those, one on...
Over, like,
Statue Way
one
going from
over the
Berkeley
both
Hill,
sides? Okay.
And one coming from off the high school park.
Okay, what about the sneakway, where they all walk in from over there to not pay at the gate?
We could put one more up on...
There is that way, they all go that way.
Yes, people,
To
that's
avoid
the tactic to not...
Kevin's Gate fee.
Yep.
Okay, I watch it at the games.
Park down Turkey Hill, walk right up and
Yeah,
through.
they just walk, like, this is how they bypass it.
Yes,
It's just, like, so you might want to post it over there, too, because people walk their dogs in that way. That's a lot of the way they come from Oak that way, on foot.
So, yeah, we had...
Maybe 3, yeah. Okay.
So what did we decide? We're saying smoking e-cigarettes and alcohol, is that?
We can go back and pull the language from the...
From the...
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Will we have enough room for that language on here is the
It's
question.
just the word, the one, that certain word, I thought we used a little bit, like, I don't even remember.
I can pull it up and we can email it.
Okay.
So that you can see what it says.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
And that would be on both signs.
Right.
Yeah.
There's going to be big signs. Big sign.
Well, I can see where the Mulvin McCarran sign would be bigger.
Yeah, it should be
Yeah.
bigger.
Should be.
It should be bigger.
Too much.
Right. Okay. So do we need to make a motion on this?
I would
To
say
approve
that.
it with that change, the language?
Well, I would make a motion to put up signs after we'd have to deliberate on the language then.
Yeah, we can't
We
move.
can't deliberate on language via email.
So it would have to be the next one. We have to put it on the next meeting again.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're going to wait.
so...
So it
I
will
guess
be
I'll
on
motion
the...
to table this?
Yeah, November 1st, the first meeting in November. Just so that we have the language clear. Sorry, John. I'm so sorry.
One more time.
You know you love coming to our meetings. Okay, next meeting. Okay. Oh, public comment, open to the public and all topics that the school committee governs. Do we have any public comment? No? Would you like to make a public comment? Okay.
Yes, I have one thing. I received a nice invitation from the chairman of the homecoming committee, inviting me as a member of the school committee to the homecoming events. That's the first time I've received anything like that, so I thought, kudos. I emailed Mr. Weiss and thanked him for the invitations.
Are you going to be sitting in a car?
I will not. I will unfortunately not be around. This is the first one I'm missing since
Really?
I moved here.
Oh.
So, unfortunately, I made other plans.
Yep.
I also appreciated the invite.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Dawson's 6th birthday is Saturday, so I'm not going to make it.
Oh, priorities.
He wouldn't want to ride in a convertible in a parade for his
It's
birthday?
got a Harry Potter theme. So
Oh, that's so awesome.
The Harry Potter car.
Yeah.
I did tell him I would go to the parade.
Okay, good. At least one of us is, I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to participate in the parade. I am a spectator. No, I'm not, I would want to see the floats go by. I want to see my kids walk
See, I
by.
do not have children
Right.
like that. I get that.
So
I have children
and I
making-
also will not be attending the rally because I'm not in high school anymore. So I'm past that. I don't need to be there. It'll be very loud and I'm sure I would leave with a headache anyway. So I'm just going to be a spectator at this rally. I'll take a picture of you, Carol, and we'll post it.
But I did remember our conversation about
Yes, yes.
community involvement.
Yeah.
in the parade.
Oh, no, and I'm glad you're doing it because,
I will do it.
yeah, okay, good.
I am going to miss seeing the floats, though.
Don't worry, I'll take a lot of pictures. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
So it sounds like at least 3 of us will be there in some capacity.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Out and about.
Walking around, you know, on the ground.
Absolutely.
I'll be a lady on the ground. Yeah.
Being asked
Right, yeah.
to
That was
participate.
very nice.
I was very forward-thinking.
Well, you know, I got the letter said Ms. Soroka, so I wasn't sure if it was for me or my daughter. Okay, so I was like, from the superintendent's office. So, okay, so reports. Athletic Advisory Committee. Brian.
So we will be meeting on November 4th at 6:30.
November 4th, okay. FinCom, Carol.
They met on the 10th of October, and the discussion was around the warrant articles for the special town meeting. There was a presentation by Mr. Kibbe about the acquisition of the Saliva property on Northfield Road near the golf course. There was also I can go into detail if you'd like, but part of it for conservation, part of it for recreation.
Okay.
Okay. There was a budget adjustment discussion that $78,000 will be available to be appropriated at that town meeting. Some suggested uses were LED streetlights. They were checking out whether it was better to own the streetlights or better to continue renting the streetlights but changing the bulbs. So that was the conversation. And that the only article that really affected the school, and it really doesn't, but I thought it was worth mentioning here, was a non-binding vote to support the demolition of the old primary school. The selectmen wanted some guidance on that, so there will be a non-binding vote on the demolition of the old primary school. And their next meeting would be at the joint meeting on the 29th.
The symposium. And remind everyone when the special town meeting is again?
It is November
12th.
12th.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
All right. Just want to get it out there.
I have the calendar
Yep.
for it, but I believe,
Tuesday night is the 12th, yes.
yes. Mhm.
Here. It's here.
Yes.
Okay. Policy Subcommittee. Wendy, Jim,
We have not met.
have you picked a date yet?
We have not.
Okay.
We'll nail that down.
Chap.
Well, yes.
Chappies. PTO, I believe, meets on Monday after Miles for Miles.
Yes.
School councils.
The primary school met today. We had some grade level reports out. We talked about the professional development, new reading program. They the staff thought it was great for the September 24th trauma training, because it was also their first time for the primary school, so that was great for them. They also had a district learning walk today that was very successful, a lot of positive feedback. We talked a little bit about climate, how there's a lot more positive recognition going on between the students and the staff. One thing that came up was one of the parents was interested in potentially setting up like a PTO subcommittee, or where it was like a primary school subcommittee of the PTO, where parents could, I guess, almost like teach or train new parents as they come in, so they know a lot more of the little details. One parent their child had missed the bus, and they had no idea how to do the loop and the drop-off. So just little things like that, I think, would help out some new parents, or they thought it would help out the new parents.
So are they going to bring that to the PTO?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the plan.
All right.
So I just wanted to bring that up too.
Okay.
I don't know if the PTO rep knew if there was subcommittees.
There typically hasn't been, because it's such a small district. I know that other districts do have school-based PTO organizations, but I don't remember.
We've never
done
been able to. We've
that.
always
Because
been
we don't
a
have
district.
the parent base to have enough people to do that, right?
That was the concern of creating a whole new
Yeah.
committee. It made more sense to maybe do a subcommittee of it.
Right.
PTOs, individual PTOs in buildings, which many school districts have, has just never been able to be sustained here.
And then another concern that was brought up was just they're always looking for volunteers to help out in the school, especially one was lunch duty, but also just having that protocol for volunteers and having volunteers be well-trained. But having teachers in there is so important, maybe a combination of teachers and volunteers, but actually getting volunteers. So if people are out there that want to volunteer,
They can make sure they have their Corey filled out. Corey.
And another concern was just there's been an issue about photos and people sharing photos, and we were kind of discussing how there really needs to be a district-wide policy on photos, and how there's shared photos from teachers to parents, and then some of those parents are actually potentially sharing those photos.
We have one, don't
policy.
we?
We do
have
have
a
a
policy, it's just not adhered to.
Yeah. Because there are parents who check off boxes that say they're not even allowed to share photos.
There's many levels of how that works.
Yeah.
From the simple, you're chaperoning a field trip,
Right.
and you throw pictures on your social media page without the thought of that, even if it's said we're not doing that, people just do it anyway.
Yeah.
And
DC.
then there's also sort of more globally people who check that off,
You
and
check
just
it off?
even school events. Sometimes I hear real thought and concern to saying that student, we can't have that, and then other times I think just stuff happens because it does.
And that's why a lot of the
stuff
times,
gets out there.
sometimes, like, a teacher will take a picture of their backs, so that you could see they're doing something, but it's just the back of the kids.
Classroom and our district page seem to be very cognizant of that. No faces, side views, things like that.
So that you can't clearly see who is in the picture.
And then the other thing that one of the parents brought up was whether, this is like a legal question, but whether teachers can be using their personal devices to take photos, or does it need to be a school device, like an iPad or a school camera, to take the pictures?
Oh, goodness. Well, we cannot fund them with a phone, okay? So there is, either they're going to stop taking photos,
Exactly,
or,
that was what the teachers were addressing.
because we are giving out
Way too much time.
iPads and phones so they can take photos. Oh, my goodness. Okay, that's a policy subcommittee. That's you two.
Right, I was going to say, what
Where we
section
ended
is
that
that?
conversation even too was that if parents weren't interested in having their kids' photos be taken, then they can fill out that form.
They absolutely can opt
They're gonna
out.
opt out.
You opt out of having your child's photo taken. I did that one year, and then I got a call that said that my child wouldn't be in the yearbook. And I did not know, that your child would, then they won't even include it in the yearbook when you do that. So there's that, you need that happy medium, because a yearbook is totally different than Facebook posts or, photos like that.
Sounds
So I
like a
think we need to
policy
fix
thing,
that one.
doesn't it, Jim?
So, yes, I think that you might want to write that down for policy.
Well, usually we review whole sections, so
So-
maybe we'd have to just see if that is in a section we visited recently, we'd have to try and put
You
it
have to pull
into
it
our
out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see, I've been to events where if the people opt out of photos, that they wear a sticker.
Well, that's a
during
good
that
idea.
event,
Right.
So that you know not to take a picture of that child.
Right.
Don't post any pictures of that child.
That's a good idea.
So that way you know,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
oh, little Johnny has...
He's got a green sticker.
He's got an
or a
opt-out.
sticker, yeah.
I'm camera shy, is what it is.
Right, that's a good
Something
idea.
that says that.
It's really
You know,
cute.
and I'm sure it's more for the younger kids. Well, you were talking about the primary school.
Yeah,
right?
that's primary school,
So
yeah.
probably more for the younger kids than high school, but still, if on field trips and stuff, if there's somebody's camera shy,
Mhm.
then
Yep.
tag them somehow. That might help. But we can look at that in terms of policy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then
Okay.
the superintendent can look in terms of implementation,
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then,
as per our charter.
yeah, okay. Any other school councils?
Yes, the elementary school council met on the 8th. Their penny was made over $6,000.
Wow.
The funds to be used for Chromebooks, as Mr. Champagne indicated. That's the big push there. Grade 5 will be making their monthly trips to the Lunenburg Public Library, and that is all working swimmingly. The Bridges program with the senior center, it has begun, and that's like for 6 weeks or so for each team to work with.
What grade was that again?
5th grade.
Fifth, okay.
To work with some of our seniors. The breakfast grab and go is gaining participants. I guess they have bags out and the kids come in, they grab it if they wish to have breakfast, and that seems to be gaining in popularity. There was a discussion about encouraging those parents who are eligible for free and reduced lunch to use the program, because not only is it beneficial for the family not to, have to pay the money for lunch if they don't happen to have it at this time, but also there are a lot of programs that the schools get, grant money or whatever, based on the amount of free and reduced lunch. And if families do not sign up for it, even though they're eligible, then the school also loses out on some additional funding. So there was some discussion about making sure those forms go home a couple times a year, that kind of thing, to try and make that a little bit easier for people who may find themselves in that position. They are going to once again host the Tiger program. The Mcats Foundation pays almost half of the $1,200 fee. She talked about how the PTO had offered $8,000 in grants, $5,000 to teachers, $3,000 to the principal. Her thought, she's looking into spending it on mounting a projector in the cafeteria so that presentations can be done more smoothly and easily with that piece of equipment.
$8,000 per school, or is that overall?
She said per school.
They have,
Maybe I misunderstood, it's very possible. She said
Depends on how they're running it.
$8,000 in
Right.
grants, 5, maybe it was... but
That could be district-wide, who
Right,
knows? Do you know what they're doing?
I don't know.
For the principal's
There we go.
discretion, and then $5,000 per school available.
for grants.
If they...
Correct.
If they
Okay.
were so written.
So depending on how many applicants there are for
Right.
each and what their,
Oh, I
was
remember
how it
that.
used to go.
And what the program was.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was quite a bit of discussion, we don't have to reiterate it. It was basically the discussion we had here about MCAS.
Yep.
Kylie's Care Kit program is off and running, and there are 31 current participants at the middle school.
That's lunch.
That's
No.
That's the ones that go
food
home on
for
the weekend?
The weekend.
Okay,
Weekend food.
okay.
And the next meeting is
31.
November 19th.
31, is that what it was
That's
last
at
year?
Turkey Hill, it was less, it
It's
was
more,
less.
that's what I thought.
It was 20-ish
More than
last year,
last
right?
year.
Okay.
It's more than last year?
Yeah.
A good bit more, actually.
Yeah, I want to say they had 20-ish.
They,
I could
Yeah,
review
yeah,
that.
19, 20.
I don't have that with me.
I think when there was established not too early on in the program. They consistently had 12, I think, is what the original
wow.
number was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
That's
it maybe
almost
did
triple.
climb up to 17.
17 at the end of the year, and now they're at 31.
Okay.
That's significant.
That's a huge jump.
Which is why we're looking to expand the program into the other schools as well.
Right.
It's obviously needed.
Jim, did you have a... Cal?
No, we didn't have evidence.
Okay. Capital planning, that's you, Jim.
We have our next meeting is October 29th, right before the symposium at 5:30.
Oh, prior to
p.m.
ours? Okay.
Prior to the
Yeah.
symposium. At 5:30 p.m. In the high school collaboration room on the other side.
Down here?
I
Okay.
think it's where we'll be.
And when are you going to ask people for their... what are you...
I'm told that the request had already gone out. But
Yeah,
Mr. Londa
that's what
indicated that he
indicated
did not receive
yeah.
that, so I will reach out
Okay.
to
Was it
Ms.
John?
Lemieux and
Is it Heather? Okay.
see if she
Yeah.
knows when those have gone out, because we're supposed to start evaluating.
Yeah, that's what,
On the 29th.
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Prior to, you're going to put it in priority. And
Right.
you're using a whole new grid.
we're using a whole new process, yeah.
Yeah, so you need that information.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, okay. Is that it then?
That's it.
Okay. Wellness advisory?
Met yesterday, I was unable to attend, unfortunately.
Okay. PacSal had their meeting last Friday here in this room with their Title I presentation. And I was the only one in attendance with Karen Rash and Juliana. I know they are legally obligated to provide that presentation, and it was a really great presentation, but I was the only person there. So that was a little disappointing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because I'm sure that there are many parents who could have used that information. So I'm not sure how we can get that information out more, or maybe have I don't know if the time, it was at 11 in the middle of the day on a Friday. I'm not sure that was a convenient time for parents. So maybe if we could have, or even if they do it at the PTO meeting at some point.
Is there a PowerPoint that they could...
Yeah, it was,
on the website?
yeah, and I thought they were going to do that.
Can have them on Knight's Roundtable, too.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think there's just got to be a better way for parents to get that information.
And that's always been the time they had meet.
It is.
Traditionally, that was,
It is
I
in the
covered
next
that when I
meeting.
was first on school committee.
I have-
And it used to be,
It is, again, at 11 o'clock on
Yep.
Friday.
That's really hard.
It is very
Yeah.
hard, and I asked her how many people typically attend, and it's just Juliana and the president of the PacSal. So that,
There are things that you can do. You could have a family night where the teachers are maybe facilitating activities for the students to be engaged in,
so the parents could
relative to
come, yeah.
reading or math, and the parents can be
Yeah,
in that meeting.
right, because, yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that.
Because the biggest theme there was the parent-school partnership. So if they're not attending meetings like that, there is no partnership. So we really need to form that partnership with those parents
Yeah.
who get, have those, because they need resources. They're the ones that are affected. They get services.
So when we bring our new reading teachers that are grant-funded through Title I on board, maybe I'll have them talk with our ESL teachers. Because they do a really good job of engaging the parents.
Okay,
So maybe there are some strategies that can be crossed over there.
okay, good. Because that was disappointing.
It's like my forums.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I was so shocked, but I was. Lifelong Learning Advisory, who is that? Who is?
me.
That's Wendy, okay.
We have not met.
No? Okay. Do you have a date or no?
We do not at the
Okay.
moment.
So we added the TC Passios Building Design Committee per Brian's request. Did you meet today?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you for
Yeah.
adding it. We did meet today. It was our first meeting. We organized the committee and set up a meeting schedule. The chair is going to be Greg Roy, the vice chair Dave Blatt, and the secretary Michael Mackin. The meeting schedule as of now, we're going to be planning to meet the second and fourth Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
Oh, okay, so around ours.
Yes.
Okay.
My Wednesdays will be...
Yeah, you're going to be...
Every Wednesday.
Okay.
One of the major parts of the charge is that we're going to help design TC Passios as a combination of town office, school use, and community use.
Okay, good. That'll be so interesting.
Oh, and we also had a special guest, John London.
Oh, special guest.
Hopefully you'll be
Special guest star.
Yeah.
Mr. Londa. He probably was so glad to leave today then. And I think we need to add the District Advisory Committee. I know it's only
Yes.
4 times a week, but do you want to add it?
Well, it's not an official...
Committee?
It's not, we're not meeting
not.
until January.
Oh, okay, so we don't need to. Okay,
It's not.
that's fine.
It's part of the superintendent's report, I would guess.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
okay. Topics for future discussion, student opportunity, the ACT resolution that we got in our packet,
Yes.
and we had a draft from Jim. So we need to, does anybody have any well, see, we have to add that to our next one so we can discuss it and then move, maybe.
So we can have a discussion.
No, it's not on here. I know, sorry.
But I think if any of you have other suggestions, if you forward them then for the next meeting,
Right.
we can make sure that we have different ideas on the table for
Can I have a
discussion.
comment?
You,
Pass with a comment?
we passed it in, yeah, we can't, that's,
So
I know. The symposium is October 29th, so that's prior to our next meeting. And you're all going to be there, correct?
I am not.
Oh, Brian, you're not. That's right, you have a prior, okay.
I
So-
will be there.
Okay, so we'll
6:30 start?
We'll have to call a meeting before.
Posted.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah.
post it and call a meeting to order before the symposium. Correct. And so topics for future discussion, I thought that the athletic director thought that the coach's manual was on here today, but it's not.
No, I spoke with him today.
Okay,
And I think it makes sense for him to present the coach's handbook when he comes in to present his winter
numbers.
preview. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
That
So
way he doesn't have to come up.
I know, because I was like,
He's pretty busy.
he is, and I thought, wow, he's on this one?
Yeah, no.
One topic I had for future discussion, just with tonight, I noticed talking about goals and
Yep.
we talked about school committee goals, maybe revisiting our school committee goals in a future meeting.
Okay. One when we don't have a lot on the agenda.
Yes, I agree. That's exactly what I was
Okay. Okay. Resolution. Anything else for future goals, for future topics? No? No? Okay. So I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn 9:32 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.